It's a little camera. Good evening. Good evening. My name is Odie Hawkins, and we're starting a new cycle of readings. First, let me take my mask off here. As you can see, it has on it, I am Black History. And I have a suggestion to some of my friends and relatives in Florida, the state where the son of immigrants is ruling currently. I don't have to mention his name, you know who I'm talking about. I think he should be greeted every day with maybe a mask like this. I have Black History. Mm-hmm. Okay, having said all that, I'm dedicating this month of readings, the month of March, to a friend of ours who just recently passed. His name is Ralph Harold Vernon. And I'm saying this, or I should say Zola, Salena-Hawkins, and I are saying this. We are saying this. We knew Ralph Harold Vernon. Who liked my stories. We knew Ralph Harold Vernon for a half a century and a bit. Well, I knew him. Zola met him later than I did. Half a century and a bit, that's over 50 years, almost as long as I've known Palmer Mitchell. Ralph and I went through a lot of scenes together. A lot of scenes. Some of the scenes we went through were almost holy. Some of the scenes we went through were almost profane. Yes, we knew Ralph Harold Vernon. I knew him for 50 years and a bit. And he was always Ralph Harold Vernon. And always will be, so far as we're concerned. Now, the title of this reading for this whole month will be Love Letters for Sale. Love Letters for Sale. And I won't explain past a certain point. Here's a sip of my solemnly swear that I'm up to no good cup. He's looking at you, Alfredo.
Can you hold up the cup again one more time?
All right, here.
Yeah. All right. Very good. I solemnly swear I'm up to no good.
I solemnly swear that I am up to no good.
All right.
I call this long story, which is why I'm stretching it over the course of a month. I call this long short story Love Letters for Sale. And it goes like this. The points of view are changing from time to time, but I'm pretty certain you'll be able to keep up with what's going on. Mm-hmm. I don't know why they gave him the nickname Hawk Daddy. It seemed that most of the male students at DuSable High School, 1952, 56, had nicknames. His was Hawk Daddy. This guy got the rep for being a great love letter writer. We're talking about a time when romantically inclined people actually wrote love letters. It was a big thing. I got to know Hawk Daddy pretty well during the 4 years we were in school together. He even wrote a couple letters for me during that time. After graduation, it seemed that a lot of us just disappeared, went all over the place. Some of us stayed in Chicago, but a lot of us just went out there. That's what happened to Hawk Daddy. I didn't see him for years till he came back from wherever to DuSable High School, to the DuSable High School reunion. It was a grand occasion filled with enough nostalgia to fill a 2-ton truck. We started talking, me and Hawk Daddy, carefully studying the enlarged frames of former cutie pies about what we were doing with our post-DuSable lives. I had clawed my way up from a baby reporter on the Chicago Sentinel to be a full-fledged columnist. He was living in California, traveling back and forth to Ghana a lot. I fell in love with the place after a week in Accra, writing novels, screenplays, plays, short stories, but no love letters. My wife wants love, not letters. We got on the subject of his love letter writing career and decided as a fun project to write about what he had written about. I must have written at least a couple of hundred of those things from my freshman year to my junior year when I stopped. Well, that's a whole story unto itself. We got busy a couple of weeks later. He had managed to save a few drafts or copies of a few of the love letters. That's what this is about. Clyde Jackson was the star halfback, the star left halfback on the DuSable Panthers Blue Division Championship team. Terrible student. He played football like a maniac because I think he was a bit manic. A very muscular 5'8" or so, belongs to the Valley gang, as did 10 others on the team. He had no ambition beyond beating the opposition in the next game until he spied Petunia Lewis sashaying demurely through the first floor corridor. I guess you'd say it was a thunderbolt thing with Clyde. He felt that he had to be her man, her protector, and despite his mania for football, he had enough sense to know that he needed help from Hawk Daddy, the scribe. It was really weird how I got to be the love letter writer in my freshman year, right off. A buddy of mine had some feelings for this voluptuous sophomore and did not know how to approach her. I suggested a note. He didn't feel he could write the right stuff, so I did it for him. And that was the spark that lit the fire. News traveled fast. Back to Clyde. Look, Freshie, I want this chick to be my girlfriend. Can you write me into that? $2 a page. How many pages? Guaranteed results? Or your money back? So that's the way it started. Me writing a love note letter from Clyde Jackson, the star left halfback, to Miss Petunia Lewis, a nerdy little cutie pie. I did a little research on Miss Lewis before I got into the letter. Just for the record, I hated Clyde's approach to me. So disrespectful. It had to do with the fact that he was a junior and I was a freshie. That kind of class stuff didn't last for too long. Not after I hit my love letter stride. Miss Lewis was one of those skinny little freshies who had blossomed into a very sweet something. Sexy walking, neck swiveling, flirtatious, ready to catch sophomores. That's what this girl named Agnes Appleby told me. Agnes was just a sophomore herself, but she was all the way up into everybody's business. I filed the info and started scribbling. My turnaround was a couple of days. One must keep in mind it was 1953 in the corridors of DuSable at all Negro high school except for John and Jane Johnson, a white brother and sister who were passing for Negroes. I think that they missed the white flight bus or read the road map upside down or something. And all Negro high school on the south side of Chicago except for the white teachers on the scene. Mostly Irish Catholic women for some reason. Never could figure that out. And the upper crust girls expected to be seduced by letters, if it was going to be serious. I can't think of any time that was like that time at DuSable. In that time and that place, the upper crust girls, I'm stressing upper because they were the most desired, expected a literary appeal for their goodies. Quid pro quo, for real, dig it? Years later, we learned that some of the young ladies had shared their literary giblets and came to the conclusion that Hawk Daddy had been the Cyrano de Bergerac of the day. But it was too late to be distressed about anything. They had children to feed, bills to pay. Now, back to Clyde Jackson and Petunia Lewis, my maiden voyage, like I said earlier. I did a little research on Miss Petunia Lewis. I had enough from nosy-ass Agnes Appleby and Personal observation, she ate lunch with the same bunch, laughed out loud, and studied hard to do my letter. I had to extend my deadline to 2 whole days processing stuff. Just glancing at her with her Coke bottom thick spectacles and the Chinese bags moving across her prominent forehead, it was hard to see what Clyde saw in the young lady. Yeah, hard to see till we got down below her chin. The girl had a spectacular body. It wouldn't make too much sense to splash numbers. 5'5", 36, 22, 38, or something like that. Those are just numbers. What she had was a smoggy kind of sex appeal. I could see what Clyde saw when I took off my blind spots. Eons later, talking with my friend Felton, who asked the impertinent question, have you ever really taken a close look at Rosa Parks? Take them specs off, uncoil that bun, and lead her into a San Francisco hot tub, and you'd have a sexual tigress. Think about it. My letter, Clyde Jackson's seduction letter to Petunia. This is what. Hey Petunia, this is a letter to you from yours truly, Clyde Jackson, the star left halfback on the DuSable High School team, Blue Division Championships. If you were at the same game last Saturday, you saw me run for the touchdowns. One was for 15 yards, the other was for 22 yards. Your coach told me that he thought that both of my runs were fantastic. I thought they were too. For what the coach is saying to me, it looks like I got a scholarship to go to the University of Illinois, or maybe Michigan State, or maybe even Notre Dame. All I got to do is just keep on running hard and fast. Lots of people think that they know a lot about me, but they don't really know the real me. The real me is something that I don't open up to a lot of people. A lot of people think that I have 3 or 4 girlfriends. That's not true. The truth is that I do not currently have a girlfriend at all. And that's the buck-naked truth. So, this is one of the reasons I'm writing you this letter about myself. This is the opportunity. I'm offering you to be my girlfriend. I hope this is cool with you, that you will say yes to that, so that I won't have to ask somebody else. If you say yes, I'll get you a ticket to see me play against Finger next Saturday. That's all for the moment. Me, Clyde Jackson, number 36. The following week, seeing Clyde Jackson strut down the hall with his muscular right arm hooked around Petunia Lewis's neck almost made me sick to my stomach. I really couldn't put my thumb on the reason why I felt so nauseated by the sight of him with her. It wasn't jealousy or envy, it was something else. A few days later, I came to the conclusion that it was my disgust with myself that made me feel like I wanted to puke. I felt that she was really a decent girl who had allowed herself to be sucked in by this jive-ass letter that I've written. I called it a jive-ass letter because that's what Clyde wanted. I had even used his jive-ass blowhard way of talking about himself. The first time I saw her walking to class by herself, I wanted to run up and scream into her face, "Don't have nothing to do with this football maniac thug." But I couldn't do that. I really felt torn about the situation. I really sank to another low spot when Clyde sat across from me in the cafeteria and, witnessed by a few other thug buddies, formed a donut with his left thumb and forefinger and punched his right forefinger right through the hole and winked at me. Got it? That really got to me. He was making me some kind of accomplice to him stealing Petunia's virginity. I had a lot to think about that evening on my long walk back to the Alma Hotel, my home. I can't say that I thought a lot about ethics or morality or any of that stuff. I just felt that I needed to be very, very careful about my love letter writing. I wanted to make a few bucks writing, which was something I liked to do, but I didn't want to feel like a dirty, rotten snake dog every time I wrote a letter to somebody. I made a promise to myself that I would be more careful about what I wrote, a lot more careful. This is Petunia Lewis Williams. She became Williams later on. Oh my God! I almost fainted when I picked up this neatly written note that had been pushed to the vent in my locker. A letter note from Clyde Jackson. It took me 2 whole class periods to read and reread his words. Half the girls in my class wanted to hook up with Clyde Jackson, and he was writing a personal letter to me. That's what we called him back then in those ancient times. I didn't know what to think. I knew if I accepted his proposal that I would have to have sex with him inevitably, eventually. Because that's what it was all about, really. There was a very delicate understanding about this. I feel safe saying that about 99% of the girls I hung out with, my homies, were virgins at 16, 17, 18. And we weren't particularly anxious to give it up because there was a lot of consequences to be considered. I know this notion of the hot-blooded wannabe fucked black woman has persisted ever since the first slave owner raped his first African woman. Propaganda dies hard. What I'm saying, staring back through the decades since I graduated from DuSable, is that a brother didn't get some easy. Clyde Jackson's who I'm talking about. There were a bunch of horny rascals out there just waiting for us to get weak enough for them to lower our panties. But there were many of us who denied them the right to take their hormonal urges out on us. A long time before our vanilla sisters had the vote, to this, to that, we had our unwritten code at DuSable. Making come to you with more than a stiff brick. I know that may sound hard, no pun intended, but we had a future to look at, and it didn't feature a stiff brick. It had to be more than that. That's the reason why I had to turn Clyde Jackson's proposal down. He wanted some P-U-S-S-Y off this nerdy girl with the bombshell body. Yes, I was. And I wanted a husband who was going to take me past momentary sexual trickery. Yes, it's true. I did let Clyde hang around me for a while because the poor brother's ego was so fragile, so fragile. I didn't want to push him away like a nothing person because it might have affected his football plan. And I was a DuSable Panthers fan. I didn't want to see our team beaten. He made me promise that I wouldn't tell anybody that he hadn't got the panties. Well, I didn't have to promise anything. Most of the student body assumed because they saw him hanging around me that he had gotten the panties. Oh well. Truth is, he didn't even come close. I became aware early on that Hawk Daddy was writing these jive-ass letters, and that turned me into Hawk Daddy's direction, but he was so busy writing these love letters, he didn't have time to notice me. No doubt in my mind. It all worked out for the best. Earl Brown was one of those kinds of dudes that you could spend a year and a day in a classroom with and never knew he was there. He was something like wallpaper. You knew he was there in a way, but we didn't pay him much attention. He was what you might call an ordinary guy. He wasn't too tall or too short, not too fat or too thin, not too handsome or too ugly. I really had to maintain a grip on myself when he approached me to do a letter for him. He hemmed and hawed around a bit when I asked him who it was going to. He finally confessed, "It's to Francis Lattimore." Francis Lattimore, wow! I really had to put my creative thinking cap on about that one. Frances was like a magnet. It had something to do with her vibrant personality, but also had a lot to do with the way she was built. I have to admit, I wasn't the only one who often followed her through the hallway just to get an extra good look at her body. Frances was built like an hourglass Coca-Cola bottle, and she flaunted it. See, the DuSable had an extraordinary number of Frances Lattimores.
Brick houses. Moving on.
I solemnly swear that I'm up to no good. I can't say how it happened, this proliferation of divine bodies, but they were there. Years later, I ran into them in the bars, the supermarkets, the parks, the beaches, wherever. And I can honestly say that only a precious few of them have maintained their primetime DuSable shapes. Oh well. So after doing my preliminary research, I got down to business. Rather than hit on Francis the way a lot of guys did, hey Francis, you going to go out with a mellow fellow? That's right, sweet thing, me. It took a few hours to get the right pitch, the proper tone. Dear Francis, my name is Earl Brown, and I sit 3 rows to the east of you in our English class, and I sit 3 seats behind you in our civics class. I am writing this note to you because I wanted to talk with you, but I didn't want to be a nuisance. I look at you all the time, but I don't think you see me. I've heard people say that about me, that they know I'm there, but they don't see me. I have to be honest, I don't know what to do about this. Sometimes I wish I had a magic wand to wave around, a magic wand that would make some people notice me, especially you, Francis. This note may come as a surprise to you, but I hope that it doesn't annoy you or make you angry. Some people don't have any problem about running up into other people's face to talk to them, to tell them that they love them, or whatever. I can't do that. I could never do that. I think about talking to you a lot, but you always seem to be surrounded by other people. I would like for us to become friends, maybe even special friends.
Oh my.
I feel kind of funny about this, about asking you to become my special friend, because I know you don't even know me well. There are lots of things I don't know, but I do know that it's impossible for people to get to know each other better if they don't communicate. I'm hoping this little note will open up the line of communication between us. Maybe it would help things a bit if I told you a little bit about myself. My family, my mother, and my older sister come from Savannah, Georgia. My father was lynched by the KKK for assassinating a teenage white boy. That's one of the reasons why my mother decided to bring us to Chicago. I love living in Chicago, but I don't like the wintertime because it is too cold. I was never this cold in Savannah. Francis, I am in my junior year here at DuSable, and I've never had a special friend. You know, someone I could talk with, someone I could share my thoughts, maybe even my most secret feelings. Maybe if you have the time, we could meet in the library and study together sometime. I noticed you were having a few problems in our civics class. Maybe I could help you out. I seem to be able to keep a lot of civic stuff in my head. Well, I think that's enough about me. I'm looking forward to your response to this note. Like I said earlier, I don't want to annoy you or make a nuisance of myself, but I would definitely like to know you better and better. Very sincerely, Earl Brown. And that is where we're going to end that particular scene. As an opener, as you can see, we got things going on here.
What an inspiring letter.
Oh, there's a cynic in the house, I see.
Can't help but answer that one.
Well, let your laugh down now, because there's more funny stuff to come. I have to laugh myself when I think about these things, because people who have other people write for them, who don't have a clue about what it is they want to say, can tell you the most uninteresting things. You know, some guy said, tell her I like her feet. Why would you want to tell her that?
I know.
Well, I do like her feet.
Okay.
So who cares if you like her feet? Is that all you can see?
Right.
Oh no, man! You know. Anyway, it's going to go on. This is the first reading. We're slightly ahead of schedule because March 1st starts on Wednesday, I believe.
Yes, it does.
Well, tomorrow, as a matter of fact.
Yes.
So I'm one day ahead of my schedule, and this is going to be this month's reading.
Gotcha.
I'm going to try to do this on Tuesday night of each week, and we'll see what what comes out of it. There's some surprise endings and beginnings too, as you can see.
As you go through your weekly readings.
There you go.
There you go.
Hey,
Okay. Well,
thank you for joining us for
thank you very much.
another moment in time.
Uh-huh.
And we bid you...
Your website is Your website is www.odiehawkins.com, or just Google Odie, O-D-I-E, Hawkins. And folks, it's Odie, not Odie.
Thank you so much.
Odie Hawkins. Okay.
This goes for all of you New Yorkers who are calling Odie. Thank you, Zola.
He does not live here.
Odie.
And with that,
This